Hello, everybody. Hello. Another great day. Another great day because we have with us Judge Andrew Napolitano, a judge of character that really no one in America has the authority and judicial background and, the media background to speak about what he speaks about and speaks about it without any interference of anybody telling him what to say, how to say it, when to say it. And we are in, we're not kids anymore. This is the most difficult time of our lifetime with the wars going on in Ukraine, the COVID war that destroyed the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of millions for what, and it's just getting worse. They're robbing us of our freedom. And the judge Andrew Napolitano's column, that'll be going out tomorrow, is using war to assault freedom. And he begins by saying most judges and lawyers agree that the war on drugs in the past 50 years has seriously diminished the right to privacy guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment. Now, a small group of legal academics is arguing that the war in Ukraine should be used to diminish property rights guaranteed by the Fifth Amendments. And, you talked about the war on drugs. What a bunch of crap. And wasn't Biden a real fan of the war on drugs?
Yes, he was. Gerald, good morning, my dear friend, and thank you for having me on. These Wednesdays are an utter delight for both of us. And we know from the people watching, from your fans and mine as well. Yes, Joe Biden in those days held himself out as a conservative Democrat and was a champion of the war on drugs. Gerald, I when I think of how I was forced as a judge, forced by the law, forced by the appellate courts to send people to prison for the simple use of marijuana, which today is a booming business in New Jersey. All the lives lost, all the assets wasted, all the liberty crushed in the war on drugs, more than half of it was for marijuana, which is now legal in 37 states, and which the House of Representatives has already voted to remove from the federal schedule of controlled dangerous substances. Our friends, I say that sarcastically, the Republicans in the Senate keep opposing this because they still have this Victorian attitude that somehow the government can tell people how to live. You own your own body. You have the right to put in your own body what you want. The government wasted trillions and destroyed so much liberty in the war on drugs. Now, of course, they want to expand this into the war on private property because these academics, we both laugh when we say academics. They think they're smarter than anybody else.
Yeah.
They can read the Constitution, they can read the Supreme Court opinions, but they don't know how this stuff works in the real world because they live in their own ivory towers. They said to Joe Biden, all those assets you seized, you don't have to give them back and you don't have to wait for the courts. Liquidate them and put the money in the federal treasury because they don't believe in the right to property. Their argument is that because a lot of these assets are owned by the Russian government, they're not owned by a person, and the Constitution only protects persons. That's hogwash. The Constitution protects private property. All property is ultimately controlled by some human being. When you own property, you have the right to use it, you have the right to alienate it, and you have the right to exclude all others, including the government, from it. And only a person can make those decisions. This twisted, contorted argument that you're going to hear coming up, because they started with it last week, that old Joe, or any president for that matter, can seize any asset of any foreign entity without a charge, without a crime, without a trial, without a due process, and then convert it to the government's use, would make Joe Stalin very happy.
Biden also, he was a fan of that three strikes you're out kind of thing too, wasn't he?
Yes, yes.
And you mentioned marijuana. It's like trying to regulate guns. I mean, everybody I knew that wanted to get pot got anything they wanted anytime.
Right.
And the only reason these arrogant clowns that play politicians, politics, many ticks that suck out of the blood out of our lives, the reason they legalized it is that, hey, we can make money on this.
Correct.
We could really put a lot of nice high taxes on this because we never work a day in our lives. We're politicians. All we do is suck off the public tit, and we need money. We need money, so legalize marijuana. We'll really tax the hell out of it so we get the money. And look what they did. Like you were a judge. You saw the lives, ruined for smoking pot. This stuff was legal up until what? The 1930s?
Correct. It was legal until 1934, when a member of Congress said to an empty congressional chamber, "Oh, God only knows what these dirty, dark, brown, filthy Mexicans are bringing." I'm paraphrasing. Are bringing into the country with them, but among it is some plant called marijuana, and we got to stop it. That was the extent of the debate.
That was it.
That was the extent of it. It was racist. It was xenophobic, and there was no study whatsoever of the economic effect. You know, I was talking earlier with a former producer of mine, Austin Peterson, who has a great radio show in Jefferson City, Missouri. There is a libertarian argument, believe it or not, and you just reminded me of it, about marijuana, which says don't legalize it, decriminalize it.
Yeah.
That means it's still sold on the black market. And guess what? The government doesn't get to tax it.
Yeah.
Now, in my pure North libertarian world, you own your own body. You can put what you want. I'm talking about consenting adults. You can put what you want into your own body. It's none of the government's business. But I would love to find a way to keep the government from taxing everything we buy. You and I believe that taxation is theft. The country was solvent